Hi everyone, I am Wendy Layne and I recently picked up color pencil drawing in September of 2014 and I've had requests to show my work in progress, so this is my first demonstration for YouTube. The finished drawing is 8 by 8 inches. It's color pencil rendering from a photo of a butterfly that I took at a butterfly exhibit. This is a paper kite butterfly, but all of my butterflies that I draw are titled using their scientific name. For this drawing, I used Strathmore Bristol vellum paper, and I used a combination of Caran d'Ache Luminance, Faber-Castell Polychromos, and black Prismacolor pencil, as well as a Prismacolor colorless blender. I believe I also used a couple of Caran d'Ache Pablo pencils. At the very end, I also used two different sizes of gel pen for just a couple of places to give it a brighter look where the white is. This drawing took me approximately 7 hours to complete. I've increased the frame size or the frame time to 20 times as fast, so you get to watch me draw the picture in only 24 minutes. This is my first demonstration of artwork that I recorded for YouTube, so I've learned a few things along the way. Hopefully my next demo will be better. I'm going to try to talk throughout the video just to show you a couple of things that I've done and maybe that I should have done different, but I'll answer some questions about what I'm doing throughout the video. Okay, I hope you enjoy. So for this picture, before I started, I used a light box to lay out a very light outline of the drawing or the original photograph. Just a very light outline. I still had to look back and forth a lot. I can see my head there too much, and I also realized this a little bit into the drawing that my head was showing, so I repositioned it so you don't have to see my head through the whole video. But the light outline helped me to just lay out the proportion. I still have to actually look back and forth at the drawing a lot to be able to get all the detail, because I'm actually drawing just what I see. I mean, I look to the left and see exactly how it's shaded and the shape, and the outline doesn't really give me that kind of detail. So while it's a great thing to use to be able to shorten the time that it takes you to draw, it's still a lot of detail, and so you really have to look back and forth. So I try to keep my picture really close to my drawing. I'm also, in this drawing, I actually used a piece of tracing paper because I hadn't heard of glycine paper yet. Highly recommend that you use glycine paper instead of tracing paper. Tracing paper does have some tooth, so it will pick up some of the colored pencil as you draw, and that can then transfer back onto the white parts of the paper. You'll see that I'm using a paintbrush quite a bit. I have to dust it off every now and then because little particles of the pencil collect, and it just gets kind of mucky, and so I will often take the paintbrush and just kind of dust the whole picture off. I never put my hand on any part of the paper or the drawing. I always keep it on top of what now I use glycine, but in this particular case it was tracing paper. You know, you can be careful. You have to switch out the tracing paper a lot if you decide to use it. You have to dust it off and switch it out a lot, and it gets more expensive than using the glycine. I bought the glycine on Amazon.com. It was pretty inexpensive for a whole roll of like 100 feet. So I highly recommend you use glycine instead of tracing paper. You'll notice I'm using a lot of black Prismacolor for this drawing. I really love the black Prismacolor because of how sharp it gets, as well as it seems to be the blackest of the black of all the different brands that I use. So I really love the Prismacolors. I buy them by the dozen on Amazon, and I keep them very sharp sitting right next to my desk, and I switch them out a lot. You can't tell that I'm switching them out a lot. A lot of people like to start with like light colors and then add the dark last. For this particular butterfly, it works out great to start with the black, and then I'll put the white in between, and then not quite to the line of the black, but just kind of in the middle, and then I'll use a colorless blender to kind of drag the edge of the black into the white to kind of make a gray, to give it that soft, almost reflective, translucent kind of feel. I rarely used gray on this. A couple of places I did enhance it with a little gray, but most of this butterfly was used by dragging some of the black into the yellow or the white to give it that soft glowing effect. So I really like it. But the black Prismacolor, you know, give it a try. A lot of people don't like Prismacolor because they break pretty easily. I've had a lot of success with the black Prismacolor. I'm kind of addicted, so I just keep buying them by the dozen, and I use so much of it for almost every drawing. I'm using a very light yellow luminance for the rest of the upper part of the wings there. It also gets blended in with a colorless blender right next to the grayish area, so it just kind of looks really soft, and I try to do it exactly like I see it in the drawing to the left, where the gray meets the yellow. I try to get it as close as possible. You'll also notice that I am using a piece of sandpaper. Every now and then I'll pull it out and I'll sharpen my pencils with it. Sometimes it's not just to sharpen the edge or to get a sharp point, but the luminants are kind of expensive. They're like $4 a piece, so I don't really like sharpening them with a standard sharpener very often. So I'll just kind of use the sandpaper to get a little point. Sometimes I'll use the sandpaper to get the previous color lifted off of the lead, because I don't want to, you know, have a white pencil that had a little bit of black on it. Then you start to color with it and it's muddy looking. So I use that to kind of sand it down. Here you'll see I have all these pencils in my left hand. I pulled out some Luminance pencils that match the background and kind of mixing them together. It's kind of all experimental as I go. I don't really know what colors are going to look great. Sometimes I do start to put a color down and it's not exactly the color I want, so I grab another and kind of go over it. The Luminance blend very, very well, so it's pretty easy to go over it with another color. Here I'm outlining. The reason I did that outline is I want it to be exactly 8 by 8, and a lot of times I find that I'm just looking left, right, and I don't make a straight line. And so then when I finished drawing, I was noticing, wow, I can't put a frame on this because my line is not straight. So now, just to guide me, I usually put a straight line just to make sure that I go at least to the end, all the way to that line, and I can actually mat and frame the piece. So I've pulled in various shades of green here. And then once I put the green down, I just kind of start pulling in the black to add the shadows and blending it as I go. I'm not very good at laying out color over the whole piece and then going back and doing a second layer. I'm one of those people that I kind of finish it as I go. So I need to have the picture, that a piece that I'm working on, start to look like a finished drawing. To feel the satisfaction, keep me motivated to continue. So you'll see that I don't do like one whole layer over the whole paper and then go back over it again. Rather, I finish little pieces at a time. Now, I did with the background, I went back over it multiple times all the way through the end of the drawing to get the background the way I wanted, but the details of the butterfly I kind of wanted to do first, and I just tend to do all my drawings that way. You'll notice I'm grabbing the paintbrush. It's a clean paintbrush, and I dust off all the little colored pencil particles that land all over the white, and I do that frequently. It's like after I use pencils for, you know, probably 5-10 minutes, every 5 or 10 minutes I'm probably having to dust the piece with, there's quite a bit there, dust the piece with a clean unused paintbrush. Seems to be the best way to get all the little pieces of colored pencil that are stuck and can start to get build up, especially when you're using wax pencils. Wax-based pencils tend to, you know, the more layers you put down, it kind of starts getting like little particles that come off. So but anyway, I start moving over to the left side, upper left, because I know that it's going to get more difficult, and I don't really like to have to put my tracing paper over an area a lot. I'd rather have it over the white area. So once I started with the center piece, which is the butterfly, then I went back up to the left corner and tried to start working my way down so that my left upper side is finished first, and then I can end in the lower right corner. even when it looks like I'm finished with the butterfly in a certain area, as I'm going, I'll start to realize that maybe I missed something, or it needs a little bit more color. And here's one of the cases where I grabbed a blue, I think that was a Pablo pencil, light blue, like a sky blue, and I realized that the butterfly actually had almost a blue reflection in parts of the wing instead of just yellow and white and black. And so when I added that blue, I felt like it looked a little bit more like the picture. And the outside area, I did not have any, I didn't really use any guide. I'm not as particular with when I do my outlining. Originally, when I lay out the drawing, I'm not as particular with the background because I know, it's going to be really easy to copy. There's not that much detail, and I'm also, I do take a little bit of artist liberty to change up the background if I see fit. Typically, it's a little bit more vivid in my drawing than my photos, especially of my butterflies, because you're at a butterfly exhibit outside and you're just grabbing your camera and taking pictures everywhere. And sometimes I'm like maybe 10 feet away when I take a picture and I zoom in on it later on my Photoshop, and I'm like, oh, that's a pretty butterfly, but I don't have that crisp of a picture. So I am trying to enhance my photos with my drawings by getting very detailed. So a lot of times the background, although similar, and trying to keep the look and feel of my original photo, I will make it a lot more vivid and bright, and help it pop a little bit more than the actual photo did. This area, it took a lot of layering, so I'm sped up 20 times the actual time it took me, and it's still like I'm staying in this area a long time. Layering the green and getting the right green that I wanted, it took a little while. And once I finally figured out the greens that I would use, then I keep them in a special jar so that I can keep them separate. I don't have to keep looking for them or remember which colors I use. I'm not very good at reading the names of the colors, so I can't really tell you what colors I used. I used so many different colors, and but I do have organization to the right side of my table where I'm like, okay, this is all the greens that I've used. So then if they didn't work, I'm trial and error, I take them out and I stick them in another jar in the back so I don't use them again. But the ones that did work, I pull them out and they look great. So that's how I know. So when I get down to the bottom of the picture in the green, I know that I did the right color, and it'll match what was up above. Sometimes I'll discover a color, way into the drawing, and I'm like, I should have used this. So then I'll use that color and go back and touch it up at the previous area that I used, so that I can kind of pull it in and get to use the color that I discovered that looks great. So just to talk about the Prismacolor Colorless Blender that I use, I really love that blending pencil. It's basically just a wax pencil with no color, and it's just a great tool to use when it comes to blending two colors together or softening out the background. I also use it sometimes just to get the color deep down into the paper, especially the first layer. I like to make sure that there's no white paper showing through in certain areas. That colorless blender will really get the pencil down into the paper, and then you can just go back on top of it with other layers. I also use it as a tool. Sometimes if you feel like you've overworked an area, you can use the colorless blender to kind of actually pick up color. It's like the more you rub it in, you'll take up some of the color. You have to be careful by doing that, because you can also kind of remove some of the tooth of the paper, and then when you try to go back over it with another color, it may not stick to the paper. So the best way is just trial and error. Try it a few times on a piece of paper, practice piece of paper before you start your drawing. But I'm learning new things all the time. This is, I've not been doing colored pencils a long time. I only started in September of 2014. This is January, so I haven't done that many drawings, and I'm kind of learning as I go. So everything that I'm telling you how I do here, may or may not be the right way to do it. This is how I learned to do it on my own, and from getting tips from other artists that have used colored pencils, But the best way to do it is just experience. I think just trying it and seeing what works for you, and what works for one person doesn't work for another. And it's just part of the fun is actually just trying new things and seeing how it works. You'll notice that I am trying to finish the drawing from the top down. I don't really like to put the tracing paper or glycine paper over my drawing if I don't have to. I don't want it to pick up any of the color, transfer color to an area that shouldn't be color. I just want to kind of keep it as clean as possible. So I'm trying to finish from the top down, even though I really would like to finish the butterfly first. I also, you'll see that I use the Derwent electric eraser. It's definitely used for more of a tool. I think rarely I use it to correct mistakes. It's mostly used to, it's kind of hard to describe, but I'll put down a dark color and then I'll try to make it, I might need it to look a little cloudier, a little softer, a little lighter, or maybe I want to pick up some of that color and then add other on top of it. So it's more useful as a tool and almost as a blending tool. But I really, really like the Derwent battery operated eraser. Hopefully through this demonstration I'm not repeating myself too much. My software has crashed about 3 times, so I've had to say things over and over, so hopefully I haven't mentioned things multiple times and hopefully I don't leave anything out. You're welcome to leave me questions or contact me and ask questions if I've forgotten to maybe detail what I'm doing or something that I'm about a particular color or type of pencil that I'm using. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer as best as I possibly can. Like I said, I'm new to color pencils, but I'm really enjoying the process. I don't think I'll ever want to do any other. I used to do watercolor and acrylic, but now I'm having so much fun with the color pencils that I'm kind of on a roll, and I don't know if I can stop using them. I really love how easy it is to blend and to make my pieces look like the original photo. It just seems effortless almost. Obviously it's not effortless. This is about a 7-hour drawing condensed to about a 24-hour speed drawing. I really wish I could draw this fast. I would be turning them out every day. I probably do about 2 color pencil drawings a week, and that is even though I work full-time. My favorite color pencil by far is the Luminance. I really, really enjoy them. I just think that once you use them, you'll see what I'm talking about. They're very creamy and they're easy to blend and they're very vibrant. This particular drawing is much less vibrant. It's a lot of muted tones. So I can't really display in this drawing how amazing they are. Some of my future drawings will be a little bit more vivid and I'll be able to demonstrate how bright they really are. But I do love them. They're the ones that you will see. They have like a wood color tone outside, so they look a little bit like the colorless blender. The solid color pencils I use, of all the greens that you see me pulling out a solid green pencil or where the coating is green, those are polychromos. And I do feel like, you have to be a little bit careful when you're using the Luminance with the polychromos because one is wax and one is oil based, but they can be applied together. They seem to play nicely, and you just have to be a little bit more careful with your blending technique when you use them together. About this far into the drawing is when I really, I'll be honest, I'm ready for it to be done. It's never as fun for me to do a background as it is for me to do the subject, which I'm assuming this is probably pretty similar for other artists, but for me the background is just, let's hurry up and get this over. I still take my time. It's a 7-hour drawing. So I don't speed it up. I don't try to like rush through it. I want to make sure it looks good because it has to show off my subject, but it gets tiring to do the background and to get it exactly how I want it. I really think that I hold my pencil too tight. I think I've always done this since I was a little kid. Even just writing, I think that I squeeze my pencil too tight, so my wrist does get pretty tired, and sometimes you'll see me using a brace while I draw just to keep my wrist straight. I've had carpal tunnel surgery on my right wrist, and I really don't want to have to go through that again, so I'm trying to protect my wrist, but it's hard. To really get control of the pencil, I feel like I squeeze my pencil really tight, and probably not the best practice, and I'm trying to learn to loosen my grip, but you can kind of tell that I do that. Okay, here you see I am using a colorless blender by Prismacolor. It is a marker, and I really like it when I need to really soften out the background again and blend it all together. It also allows you to add more color on top, whereas the colorless pencil, you can only blend so much, and then it doesn't look as soft when you're adding it on top. But the marker really does tend to just smooth the last little bit out and kind of make it a little softer, foggier background. So after I've used the colorless blender marker, I'll go back over it with a black pencil just to darken it up. And then I'll take my colorless blending marker again just to blend it all back in, make sure it's nice and soft. I also, in this drawing, used, for the brightest white spot, I used a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen White, and I used a really fat one just to give it that little punch of white, because sometimes the white paper with the white color pencil is just not quite bright as I'd like it to be. So just in that really bright spot, I used that Pitt pen. I also put a little tiny white Pitt pen on the eye of this butterfly because there was no reflection in my original drawing, and I wanted there to be a little reflection in the eye. So I used the Pitt pen for that. And this drawing is pretty much finished and signed.